The Bristol Board of Education. Maintaining a safe and secure learning environment for all students.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Glad all of our parents and students here. We're glad to have you here today. This is our regular Board of Education meeting for April 4th. We will start with our national anthem, and it's going to be performed this evening by Chippensville Middle School, flute and clarinet, and Samo, directed by Lisa Ladone. Students, we appreciate it, as always. If you'll stay standing, we'll do the pledge. Sorry about that. I should have told you ahead of time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item on the agenda is a moment of silence where we recognize past educators. And this month, actually, we recognize a current educator. Although I did not know her personally, I've heard great things about Stacy, and it's always hard for our school community, our teachers, our families, our colleagues to lose a current teacher. So Stacy Klingon, who was a grade 1 teacher at Hubble and Green Hills School from 1998 to 2018. We also lost this month Dale Wenzel, a teacher and assistant superintendent from 1970 to 86, and Raymond Turek, a physical education teacher from 67 to 2000. Please pause with me. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is our staff and student recognition, and our superintendent is at the podium.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Lori Eschner, who is our department chairperson for art.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. The 27th Annual Connecticut Regional Scholastic Art Awards is the largest juried art exhibition in the state. It is a high-level exhibition and as an affiliate of the National Scholastic Art Awards and the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, the Connecticut region is proud to continue an annual tradition established in 1927. The national program was originated to honor the creative efforts of grade 7 to 12 students in public, private, and parochial schools. It is now the largest and most senior program of its type in the country. Here are the statistics for this year's competition. The 2018 Regional Scholastic Art Award exhibition features selected work from 150 participating Connecticut schools in grades 7 through 12, selected from approximately 2,500 total art entries. 683 works were accepted for the exhibit at the University of Hartford. From that accepted number, there were 259 Gold Key Awards, including 67 gold portfolios, 197 silver keys, and 225 honorable mention awards granted. The Bristol Public Schools won 13 awards at the 2018 Scholastic Art Competition. Bristol's Gold Key Award winner is Michael Gough. Also, he received the CAAA Best in Printmaking for Group 1. Group 1 is for students in grades 7 and 8. Bristol continues to be recognized statewide as having a strong art program. And now I'd like to introduce the students. Sometimes there's 2 certificates. First award, Tiffany Bartlett, ceramic and glass, and she won an honorable mention. I don't think she's here. Logan Holtz, Bristol Central High School, ceramic and glass, honorable mention. And Bristol Central High School, Kiana Love, ceramics and glass, honorable mention. Bristol Eastern High School, Jada Norton, painting, silver key. And next, one of my former students, I'm so happy to see this evening, from Chippens Hill Middle School, Pushpita Hussain, and she won a Printmaking Silver Award and an honorable mention in Printmaking. Come on up, Pushpita. Let me just go stand by your artwork. Next is Green Hills School. I'd just like Mr. Johnson to stand. Where's Mr. Johnson? He is our instructor at Green Hills School. And first up is Michael Gough, Printmaking. Gold key. So his work right now is, his work is here, and his digital image is in New York City being judged. Thank you. Congratulations. And to Mr. Johnson and Michael Gough's family, his sister won a gold last year with the same award of CAAA Best in Show. So this is a first for Mr. Johnson, a brother and sister, and his third year winning a top award. Next, from Northeast Middle School, Faith Boylard. Oh. Printmaking. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I missed a student from Green Hills School, and she's here tonight, Taylor Zelban. And I think I gave her a certificate to you. I'll get it after. Yeah. I'll get it after. Next up, Northeast Middle School. I know Cody, Sarah Cody. Sarah Cody won an award for printmaking. Next up from Northeast Middle School. Oh, Sarah, here's your second one from the Scholastic Art Competition. Eric Guzman, printmaking, honorable mention. Samantha Paradise. Silver Key, printmaking. Next up, Evan Prince, Northeast Middle School, honorable mention, printmaking. And I'd like to congratulate the artists with their fine efforts, and thank you everyone who attended tonight. And you need a photo op.
Let's let them stay up there for some photo moments.
Oh, and Jada, would you come forward? Now, Jada, I have to go through these to find yours. There it is. Jada, you won a silver for painting. Congratulations. Would you go just stand by your... And we are good.
Congratulations to all of you. You may join your families. We have many student accomplishments to celebrate this evening, in addition to our fine artists. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Chris Casson, our Supervisor of Athletics, Director of Athletics, so that he can introduce the Bristol Eastern High School State Championship Wrestling Team. Mr. Casson?
Good evening, thank you. I apologize for my voice. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Coach Bryant Lichnis and Coach John Benoit, two of our coaches at Bristol Eastern High School. They've had another outstanding season, undefeated season this year, and for the second time in a row, Class L state champions. So I'd like to introduce Coach Lichnis, who will introduce some of his wrestlers this evening. Coach?
Thank you for taking the time to recognize these guys. It's a pretty big accomplishment. They've had 2 undefeated seasons in a row, 2 Class L state championships, finished second in the state open this year as a group. It's a small number here tonight. We have one of the things we pride ourselves on is that we keep kids for 4 years. We had 14 seniors on this team this year. 7 of them were starters for us, 7 of them weren't, and they stayed around for all 4 years. We really pride ourselves on that they feel they're part of something special, part of the family. But with that, probably 10 of them are working tonight. They started jobs in the spring, so they couldn't make it. And I asked for only the varsity and the seniors to come tonight because there's over 40 kids on the team. And they're going to be at City Hall next week as well. So anyways, I just want to say thank you for recognizing them and also thanking the parents, the kids. The kids do the lion's share of the work, putting in the work to accomplish these things. The parents are big support, and of course the administration, Mrs. Calvey-Rogers, Mrs. Gomes, and Mr. Higgins, they're a big support for us. So anyways, the wrestlers that are here tonight, we have Noah Corliss, he's a senior on our team. Diego Fernandez, he's a junior on the team. He was a state champ this year. We have Heideko Manguel, senior. He was a Class L place winner. We have Andrew Sircone, a senior. Tommy Nichols, he's a freshman. He was a place winner for us this year. Ethan Matthews, a junior on our team. Noah Piazza is a junior on our team. Mason Lishnas, he's a freshman on this team, and my son. And then Bryce Beebe, he's a senior, and he was also a place winner on this team. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, wrestlers. And I hear that you're ready for the three-peat next year. That was the fun part of our agenda. Now we get to the real fun stuff. Our next item on the agenda is the minutes from our special meeting of March 6th. If you recall, we had snow, so we had to change the date, so it became a special meeting. You have the minutes before you. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
The motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Are there any corrections, additions, or changes to the motion? If not, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions.
Abstention.
Did you get that, Kim? Two.
Mr. Scott, Commissioner.
On top of it, Kim, tell them.
We will next move to committee reports. We'll start first with finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. We held our monthly finance meeting last night, as is the norm. A few things to discuss, and then I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Dieter and Mrs. Brown for some detail. I do want to comment and make it known that the staff presented our budget over the past couple of months to the Board of Finance, 2 separate nights, because it is a pretty extensive budget. They did a very good job. We also, after the fact, have talked to the people on the Board of Finance, and we are looking for them to consider adding 4 more SROs, student resource officers. That would not be in our budget. The SROs are in the police department budget, but we do really believe that that's necessary. And we are also looking to hire a full-time safety director here at the Bristol Public Schools. We do have a part-time safety director, but as you all know, with recent events, we want a full-time director. There will be a meeting on Monday night for the Board of Finance, and I believe they will be discussing the SROs that I mentioned. And then the joint board will vote on the city budget and the Board of Ed budget, all of the budgets, on April 24th. Our current budget, which we discussed last night, things are starting to take shape for the end of the year. There are still a lot of things that will be coming in. We are facing a substantial special services deficit, and we're looking to end the year probably in the $1 million deficit, and Mrs. Brown will discuss that in a little bit more detail. As far as food services, as usual, it's a little too soon to discuss that because much happens toward the end of the year. A lot of revenues come in. I will say that we are probably going to be looking at a deficit of about $60,000. That is totally due to the fact that we have had pension in the food services budget, and for the next school year, the next budget, we have moved that to the general operating budget where it belongs. If pension was not in there, we would have finished the school year, or would be looking at a projected break even or possibly even a surplus. Special services, Dr. Dieter will give more information. I would like to say that our percentage is up to 18.9%. That is higher than the state average, which is really not uncommon for an urban district, but it definitely deserves to be noted. What is definitely worth mentioning is our marginal cost of new services provided to newly identified students for this past month was $195,960. And we're tracking that as well. It shows the volatility of the special services budget. I'd like to now call upon whoever wants to go first, Mrs. Brown, Dr. Dieter.
Good evening, everyone. The report that you were given this month takes us through the end of March, and that ends the third quarter. It shows some revenue breakdown at the bottom of the report. You can see everything that we have received and applied to the budget thus far, and the couple of pieces remaining that we have yet to apply, we're waiting for some more revenues to come in. That does include our first installment of the Special Education Excess Cost Grant funding. The first installment was $3,210,887, and we're expecting just under another $1 million during the month of May. You'll see that the snapshot at the end of March shows that we have a balance right now of negative $352,476, but I don't want you to think that that's where we're going to end the year. That's where we are now. We are forecasting additional expenditures of just under $2.5 million before we end the year. We will also recoup about $1.75 million in additional revenues and grants. So that's where we're pinpointing in the area of probably $1.1 million deficit. If you have any questions on that. We did ask that all purchase orders be given to my office across the district from all departments by April 2nd. And then by the end of this month, by April 30th, that all purchase orders be closed. Any exceptions to that, we need to be notified, and also any purchases still require approval. We're still on our freeze, and we're only approving orders that directly support the curriculum. Regarding our budget transfers this month, we did have a couple of irregularities that I wanted to point out. On the first page, you'll see that much of the first page and the top of the second page are Title I grant revisions, and they show up on our transfer report. So that has nothing to do with our general funding. That's just the Title I grant revision. We did have a couple of larger numbers because there were some monies that were budgeted in the area of science textbooks. But I believe that that was done in error. That was never intended to be a science textbook funding amount. That was for curriculum and instructional supplies, things that are consumables, things like owl pellets and lab supplies. And so there are two large transfers on page, I want to say that's page 2. I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, it's page 2.
It's page 2, thank you. And then on page 3 and 4, you'll see something similar to what you saw last month, where we have a district-wide account for things like projector repairs and leasing agreements with software. And it's coming out of the district-wide number, and it's showing which site location that work is being done. And there was one other transfer for next generation science curriculum supplies. And that was in the $40,000 range, that transfer, and that's just to support the science curriculum again. Those were within the same object line, and so we went ahead and did those transfers. And then regarding the cafeteria report, there were no major changes at all. We're still expecting in the area of $60,000 or $61,000 deficit. Some of that will be offset by the inventory that happens at the end of the year, and we're looking to do that quite a bit sooner, so we'll be able to report on that hopefully by July. And unless you have questions for me, I will turn it over to Dr. Dieter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. As Commissioner Vibert has indicated, we reported out in detail last evening on both our special services snapshot as well as our marginal cost report. Marginal cost report captures all those costs associated with new or changed enrollment, specifically tuition, transportation, related service costs. This month, we are projecting that those costs are approximately $196,000. The other category that I've continued to report out on are our displaced students. Our enrollment remains steady at 42. What that number doesn't capture for you is the movement that has occurred. So we've had a number of families move in and move out, but our enrollment over the month has maintained at 42 students. And then our general enrollment figures, we've had a total new enrollment, so general ed and special education students over the month of March, that figure is 64. Students who qualify for disabilities, 18, which that comprises 28% of the new enrollment are students who are arriving in Bristol eligible for services. That is significant to note, given that the identification rate in the state is about 15%, and locally we are at approximately 19%. Any questions on the various reports? Okay, thank you.
So first on operations, which met on Tuesday, March 20th, Scott Lodge, the new president of Forestville Little League, came by and he made a request to use more fields as the number of players has been rising, and he anticipates it continues to do so. And Chris Casson agreed to work with Forestville Little League to find additional practice fields. We also talked about Louisiana Bridge reconstruction, which will be taking place in April 2019. And the transportation coordinator will determine if there's a need to bus some students who are walkers during the construction period. We also talked about the facilities and other issues, such as the Edgewood roof, which is waiting until the temperature rises to fix the area of the roof that's been leaking. So you can't do that during the winter months. And the cost is approximately $13,750 for that. Also, pipe repairs. We have experienced 3 water main breaks this winter, 2 at BC alone. Also, our energy usage has been running approximately $100,000 less than last year, so that is a good thing due to cultural changes such as increasing set points, unplugging devices during the summer, and energy efficient lighting.
That's good news.
The work on the Edgewood roof is scheduled for our April vacation week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien, anything from personnel?
Personnel Committee met and we're starting to discuss shared services with the city, which has always been a popular item. And as one happy family, we're going to be doing our part. We've asked the superintendent and the mayor to get together and make some recommendations as to areas that they've identified that they think could benefit from having services shared by the 2 branches of government, and to be continued.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to my report. My first report is Dr. Moreau and myself and Representative Ziogas and Senator Martin attended one in a series of 4 meetings that CREC had around the state to talk about the funding of the chef magnet schools. In 2010, when we put the magnet schools on board, we fixed the per pupil expenditure at $10,443. And we left it there for the first 5 years, but the last 2 years we've cut that funding. So as a result, CREC has been doing some modeling as to what they're going to do if the state is going to continue to fund them at the same level that they did in 2010. And it looks like they will have to ask the local school districts who send students to the magnet schools to pay a higher rate. It's approximately about a 20% increase over what we pay now, which is approximately anywhere between $3,500 and $4,500 per student based on which magnet school they go to. So Greg Florio, the executive director, was having these meetings all across the state. And from these meetings, he's creating a working group and trying to work with the legislators to see how we're going to fund the magnet schools moving forward. And my next item, Mr. O'Brien talked a little bit about already, about shared services, but I'll just give you my few comments about it. I think when we talk about shared services, we want to talk about three guiding principles. Does it save money? Does it help us become more effective and efficient in delivering services to our students in schools? And is it beneficial to the educational community in Greater Bristol? Some areas that we share services already are fuel, the purchase of fuel, natural gas, electric purchases, snow plowing. We plow some sidewalks for the city, and the city plows some of our parking lots. We share equipment with Public Works. They share equipment with us. We share buildings and field space with the Park Department and the Boys Club. School readiness is a joint venture. Leasing and purchasing are some shared services. And the city provides paychecks for our employees, and we maintain the payroll records. Just recently, we've had collaborated on putting together the insurance benefit management and are exploring other areas to which some economy of scale and efficiency can be achieved utilizing the stated guiding principles. Particularly, we were going to talk about IT, maybe some facilities collaboration. So it's an ongoing process, and Dr. Moreau and her leadership team will continue to work on that. We will move right on to our student representative report, and I think Olivia's up first this month.
Good evening, Dr. Moreau and Commissioners. Bristol Central dedicated the month of March largely to giving back to our community. The Maroon and White Committee received a donation of 375 brand new pieces of clothing from a popular retail store. And after much discussion, the group decided to create a Ram Strong Ladies event where teachers could nominate and recognize students who have had a positive influence at BC. On March 27th, there was a pop-up boutique held after school where 60 girls, including myself, were able to shop for clothes. This event was designed purely from generosity to build confidence and brighten everyone's day. One student commented, "I was able to socialize with girls that I would never have had the chance to talk to outside of an event like this." The following evening, our annual culture night was held. In the absence of Mrs. DiCarlo, it was completely student-planned, organized, and led under the guidance of an advisor. There were donations from over 16 restaurants, feeding upwards of 200 people. Bristol Central also partnered with grants from the Bristol Business Education Foundation and the Writing Initiative at BC to bring in a one-week art exhibit featuring the works of Michelangelo, open not only to Italian classes but also the entire school. Classes were able to book slots to visit the exhibit. This was a cross-discipline collaboration with the hopes of using the same company in the future for other categories besides art, such as science, history, and languages. Bristol Central Interact Club held their first ever Hope Charity Fitness Challenge at Health Tracks, bringing in 60 passionate students to take part in various half-hour workout classes. $9,300 was raised and divided evenly among 5 Bristol charities: the Bristol Special Olympics, For Goodness Sake, Brian's Angels, Operation Fuel, and Every Bunny Counts, a rabbit rescue organization.
Did you say $9,300?
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is. At the end of April, our Mr. BCHS Boys Charity Pageant will be held. The senior boys this year have decided to donate all proceeds to the CT Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help Connecticut children with blood cancers. After a brief hiatus, the Academic Bowl has been resurrected through the efforts of local educators. Students from Bristol Central, Bristol Eastern, Lewis Mills, Terryville, and St. Paul will be competing against each other in a number of different categories, including quiz bowl, poetry, public speaking, vocal music, instrumental music, 2D art, and 3D art. The contest opens at 9 a.m. on Saturday in the Lewis Mills Auditorium foyer. We hope you can make it. All in all, we had a fairly calm and focused month of community service. We saw the culmination of months of effort and planning, and we anticipate a smooth and easy end to the year as we move forward towards the fourth quarter. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
All I could say is not a question, it's a comment, but some fundraiser is going to get a hold of you kids and see how they raised $9,300. That is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
Thank you.
What's the date again of the Mr. BC?
I don't have the date. I know it's at the end of the month. Is Mr. Pritchard here? Okay.
That's okay, could you just
Just send that
get it
along to
the-
me and
Okay,
get
I
it to
will.
them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Madison, it's your turn.
Want to go?
Good evening, Dr. Moreau and Board of Education Commissioners. On March 14th, Bristol Eastern had about 50 students walk out of class to support the victims of all school shootings. March 14th was the day of a national walkout to honor those who we have lost due to gun violence. The 50 students who chose to participate in this walkout were not penalized and were able to stand right outside the main entrance, watched by increased security. These students were able to voice their opinions and hold posters to show support while still being safe on school grounds. This walkout was a big success. The students who chose not to walk out were given the opportunity to come together as a school in the cafeteria or the gym. In the gym, there was an assembly that supported the 17 minutes dedicated to the 17 deaths in the Parkland school shooting. The students that were at the assembly had just as much opinion on the topic as the students that were outside. Some were still left feeling unheard. Even though the assembly tried very hard to account for everyone, not everyone felt their feelings were being addressed. But not only is the lack of communication felt at Bristol Eastern, but after going to Cape's Day on the Hill, another student showed me that other schools are facing the same things. Although this student was asking our state representatives about how to improve her school, Cape's Day on the Hill was an extraordinary experience that gave all school representatives the chance to question state reps on laws and bills being talked about or ones that should be brought up. Some topics brought up were the amount of minority teachers being hired and maintained at schools to ensure effectiveness, non-lapsing accounts for unexpended funds, and acts protecting bus drivers who administer medication to students. These topics were important to discuss with representatives to get their opinions and thoughts on the acts and bills. These representatives that were present were understanding about the concerns and patient, even though they weren't the only ones that were signing them. Cape's Day on the Hill was an amazing opportunity, and getting to march to the state capitol was an experience that I won't forget. I also enjoyed seeing the press conference with Governor Daniel Malloy and Senator Richard Blumenthal. I was so glad to given this opportunity to attend Cape's Day on the Hill. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Just that it's very impressive that you went to the Day on the Hill. I've been to that. It's pretty impressive. Lots and lots of people, great speeches.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Good evening again. At the beginning of our meetings, we do a moment of silence for staff members who we've lost. But I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. It's a time in our history that really changed the tide of how some people in this country were treated. And I don't think we've gotten as far as we want to get, but we have made progress in those 50 years. I'm old enough to have remembered that day. It's a day I won't ever forget. And so may I ask that you all have a moment of silence in honor of Dr. King. Thank you. As I said earlier, this is a night of celebrations of the work of our students. Students in Mrs. Paquette Claim's UConn 1170 Individual and Family Development course wow us just about every single year with the work that they do in a competition called Brain Dance. Tonight we have many of the students who participated, and I'm going to call them up individually. First, taking first place was Hannah Wheelock. Hannah? As part of the work that Hannah did, she composed a song that she's going to perform for us.
some music on here that I could just play.
Mm-hmm.
Get that all set up. Sorry. Okay. Do you want me to just stand like right here? Yes. Okay. Sure. Sorry about that. Here we go. Is that loud? I also wrote the music myself as well. I have. Feeling so empty, like a blank page, but I try to be more than what I say, but I can't express enough. Make it out that I'm really tough, but I truly have it rough. They say mine is more to it than you have ever seen. So please, just listen to me, 'cause I'm drowning in tears, full of all of my doubt. I'm trying to breathe, but I'm way too deep down. No, no one can hear all the screams in my head. Oh, I'm a storybook that hasn't been read. Oh, mindless games I don't wanna play, but it's already taking over anyway. I can't wait to leave this town. All of the people that left me out. All I want is to be new and free, and all the pain that I feel will relieve me from my own heartache I created. I can't help my situation. Oh, so please, just listen to me. I'm drowning in tears, full of all of my doubt. I'm trying to breathe, but I'm way too deep down. No, no one can hear all the screams in my head. Oh, I'm a storybook that hasn't been read. No, no one knows what's going on in this little mind I'm holding on. I'm trying to break free. My breath is almost gone. I'm drowning in tears, full of all of my doubt. I'm trying to breathe, but I'm way too deep down.
And she was thanking me. That was incredible. Wow. Not expected at all. No, I thought yes. Yeah, it's okay. Mrs. Clayman is their teacher.
Wasn't expecting this, but hello. Yes, this is part of a mental illness competition that we've been competing in for 15 years. And as you mentioned before, I think we've won 11 out of the 15 years. We compete with all the schools in the state. And Hannah interviewed a friend with depression. And when she had the interview, the words, she decided with her talent to put that to music. So she will be performing for Hartford Hospital, the Institute of Living, on April 26th. We're very proud of her. I also had a second place winner, Jennifer Santos, and third place winner, Miranda Janik, Julia DeMattia, and Shane Karen. Thank you. Shane's at baseball, I think, right now, so he's not here. Did you guys all come? Okay, come on up. Can they come up and just speak? We also are being considered for the first time UConn has ever considered a high school. We're being considered for publication in the UConn Journal for research work that my class has also done. So I have the two students who are being considered for their research work. They did quite extensive research over a 6-month period that I'm sure if you have time, they'd love to just share with you briefly what they did. Thank you. Thank you. This is Jennifer. Do you have...
I didn't bring the papers.
So I think you also, if I recall correctly, you did poetry, right? I hope. And you did that from a personal experience.
Yeah.
It was writing. So she would have been second place. This is Jennifer.
I made the name of the poem is Breathe. In my own personal experience with dealing with depression and anxiety. People ask me, why are you so sad? I say, I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that I wake up every day, every morning, feeling like absolute shit. And that has become my norm. And it isn't fair. They tell me to breathe, as if oxygen was the problem. As if it would only be solved by just breathing. They do not know the countless times that I wish I had stopped breathing, so that the pain and weight upon me would just disappear, that my heart would stop beating. They tell me I over-exaggerate. They tell me to hide the pain because it's non-existent, it's in my head. How is it in my head if depression and anxiety hold me like a prisoner, binding me with fear and loneliness? How is it in my head when it takes me 3 hours to fall asleep because the dark thoughts come creeping into my head at the time of slumber? It makes these droplets of water trickle down my stained face, like the droplets of red I see go down my thighs late at night in the shower. Oh, how beautiful the red is. They tell me to count sheeps. It'll help you fall asleep faster. I can't count sheeps, because if I do, every sheep creates a lonely thought after another. They tell me depression is easily cured by the choice of being happy and surrounding yourself with the people you love. How do I surround myself with people like them when I don't feel worthy enough to be in their presence? I deserve to suffer with this. They shouldn't seek penance. Living has become a constant nightmare. I'm afraid of the world. I am afraid to put my guard down and be judged for something that I cannot control, that I cannot shut down. I don't know what to cure this everyday blue. I know it won't be fixed with exercise or medications. It is like my cure has been long overdue, and I am left at this station of wallowing depression, anxiety, and frustration.
I believe we have Tina Guo and Julia O'Leary. Is that correct? And these are the students whose research is being considered for publication. They're going to give you a brief summary of that work.
Hi, my name is Tina Guo and this is Julia O'Leary, and while visiting the UConn campus last fall, we were approached because they were aware of the previous success Ms. Paquette had in mental illness stigma research. For our research paper, Julia and I wanted to understand where the stigmas of mental illness initially stemmed from.
We conducted research focusing on the elementary level by reading 2 popular children's books to 2 third-grade classes and asked each student to answer written follow-up questions. Initially, we wanted to personally talk to each child about their thoughts, but we ran into privacy and parental consent issues. So we had to reevaluate our research, and we decided to interview a variety of professionals in the school system from elementary to high school levels. We drew many conclusions from our data, but the main one was that generally discussing mental illness with elementary-age children would be beneficial in reducing stigma in later years.
With this being said, we look forward to hearing back from UConn, and it is a privilege to even be considered for publication. Thank you. Thanks.
Now, Bristol has talent, a lot of talent, and it is really warming for me as an educator to see this kind of work being done by our students and having teachers lead them in that work. So thank you. Madison already spoke about our time on the hill, Cape Day on the Hill. We started at the Bushnell, listening to and asking questions of many of our state representatives. But the piece that Madison left out was that she and some of her fellow students from across Connecticut got to hold the banner and lead the march to the Capitol that day. It's a pretty extraordinary experience for her, for the other students, and frankly for me, to see who she has become in the months that she has been a representative to the Board of Education. Being very, very shy to start with, and not so much now. So thank you so much for coming with me today on the Hill. As part of the celebration of Women's History Month, a 5th grade student at Edgewood School decided they should be doing something to talk about women's history. And so Mayor Zappo-Sasso and I were invited to speak to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade girls at the request of Violet Colligan, who is an incredibly mature 5th grade student. I would have certainly thought she was a middle school student. And they asked us to speak about not only our roles, but who our role models were. And it was really an interesting opportunity for the mayor and me to have had totally different experiences in terms of who our role models were. But just to see these young girls looking at us and thinking, I can do what they're doing, was a really nice feeling. I attended my role model, you're going to ask me this. It was actually...
I've been with you for 16 years and I don't know that, so I think I should
Okay,
know it.
I had anti-role models. Most of the women that I grew up watching were women who were very bright, but made choices that didn't have them become as educated as they certainly could have become. And so it's not a negative thing. It was inspiration to me to be more and to really fulfill dreams that they wanted for themselves that they didn't fulfill. And I think the girls were pretty shocked. I think the mayor was pretty shocked that that was my response. But it was the truth. It is the generation that I grew up in. And I'm glad I made the choices. And frankly, my mother was very glad that I made the choices that I made as well. So it was a touching moment. I attended the CASE convention at the request of Larry Covino. That's the Connecticut Association of Adult and Continuing Education Conference. And I saw him here. Until I got there, I had no idea he was the president of the organization. He was on the conference committee. Is there a committee you're not on? No. And he presented a session for superintendents and other directors about training adults to be good employees, some of the soft skills that generally are forgotten about when we talk about what we need to do to train. We know we have a need for more employees in manufacturing, more employees in the trades, but we also need employees who can get past an interview. And those kind of soft skills are available to them through adult education. To my surprise, also a retired technology education teacher, Dave Lee, was also presenting because he's doing similar work in Manchester. So I'd like to thank Larry for what was a pretty amazing conference. So the mayor and I have spent a lot of time lately. Last week we went to the Bristol Senior Center and we spoke to them about safety issues. And it was rather interesting to see their perspective. We talked about whether or not they had children, grandchildren, friends who work for the Board of Ed. We talked about our security procedures in terms of getting into buildings and explained to them why that's so necessary. And also some of the ideas that we have going forward that will cost them money as taxpayers, but are really necessary for the safety of our children. And that was spoken about earlier. The police board did endorse the idea of adding 4 school resource officers. I'm not sure if the funding will come through for that. But I also gave them a presentation, and for those of you who are my age or possibly older, our safety drills were not like the safety drills now. So when we had a safety drill and they said, you're supposed to do this if a nuclear bomb is dropped, it was called duck and cover. That was our safety drill. Do you remember that, Mr. O'Brien? Right. We had some great reactions, and I reminded all the seniors that they can get a senior gold card, which entitles them to go into all of our athletic events without a fee, as well as getting a discount on performances at the schools. So some of them had them, and some of them didn't, and Mrs. Tomczak had a stack right in her hand, ready to hand out, because they were all excited about getting one once they heard about it. And finally, Dr. Dieter and I spent some time at CCSU last week doing mock interviews for Masters in Teaching candidates. It's a good opportunity for us to see candidates, but also to give back to our field. And so I thank Dr. Dieter for his time doing that. And it was Thursday night last week, which we had the day off. I'm not sure if I had looked at my calendar closely, I would have said, maybe you choose another day, but we were snowed out, as has been this year's meeting schedule. And with that, it's the end of my report.
We now come to the consent agenda, items 8.1 and 8.2. Does anybody wish to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Anybody wish to pull anything out of the consent agenda? If not, I believe we're ready to vote for the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's been motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second on this side. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now to public comment. If anybody didn't have an opportunity to sign up on the public comment sheet but wish to speak, I know there's a lot of people in the room and you probably couldn't get to the table. I'll take any comments from the floor if anybody wishes to speak if they're not on the list. Is anybody on the list, Kim? No? There's no one on the list? Does anybody wish to speak during public comment? Anybody wish to speak during public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. We'll move right down to deliberated items. 10.1 is an item we see every year. It's the Healthy Food Certification Statement. And who are you taking that?
That's mine.
Yep.
In order to receive a special reimbursement from the state of Connecticut, which this year will be $41,000, it has declined over time. We need to agree not to serve certain foods in our cafeteria and vending machines and during the school day. And we participate in this because frankly, it's more healthy for our students. We receive funding for it, and it meets the national healthy food standards as well. So I would recommend approval of the motion that says the Board of Education certifies the Bristol Public Schools' participation in the Healthy Food Certification Compliance Act for the 2018-19 school year. The Board of Education will exclude, yeah, I think that's what we want to do, will exclude from certification food items that do not meet the CNS, provided that a food sold in connection with an evening event or after the regular school day or on weekends, such a sale is at a location of the event, and such food is not sold from a vending machine or a school store. And what that means is that our booster groups can sell things at after-school activities and do not need to comply with the healthy food certification.
So would someone offer up that motion? You don't have to read it again.
Thank you.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. It's been properly made and seconded. Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When this first started, however many years ago, refresh my memory, did it like limit things that parents could bring in for in the elementary schools for the birthdays?
It still does limit that.
It still does that.
So we don't do birthday cupcakes, but we certainly want fruit salad, which is a healthy choice.
It is a healthy choice.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm just going to, my annual protest vote, no.
I don't like it either, so.
Okay.
It passes, but
It passes, yes.
it's my protest vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move right on to high school graduation.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
We finally made it.
we hope we've made it. We are setting the day for final exercises and high school graduation is June 20th, 2018, which is a Wednesday. It is my hope that even though I'm hearing there's some more weather in the offing, that it will not require a close, that we'll be able to get away with either a late opening or an early release. It is rather shocking to still have the quantity of snow that we're seeing in April. If you look at the agenda item, it shows you which days we've been closed, late openings, although Monday was not included on this when the agenda item was put in. The last 3 days of school for middle school and elementary school are 2-hour early release days. And for high school, on the last day, the 20th, they have rehearsal for graduation exercises. So I would recommend approval of this, understanding that in the event we would have a closure, because we have 181 days, we could still graduate if we had 1 day for high school and then have them make up a day, just so everybody understands how that works. It's nice to have that extra day.
Would we have to make up the day since we have more days than we need?
We would not have to. In the past, when this happened for Green Hills and for O'Connell, we had the staff report for an extra day, and we had the students complete 180. So that would be at the discretion of the board. And we have another month before we have to decide
the
that.
intervening month we can.
Yes.
Okay. So, the motion is, or someone offer up the motion, accept? Okay.
Second.
Jen offered it, and Karen seconded it. Any comments or questions? Think you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move on to item 10.3, which is our secondary school summer brochure. I'm sure you've all gotten a chance to review it and look at it. Are you gonna...
Mr. Covino is here to answer any questions you may have.
We better make it worth our while. Speak about it.
Any questions? This year we're at Bristol Central. As in past years, we flip-flop every year to help the schools during their summer cleaning. Same basic offerings in order to help students graduate in their 4 years. Any questions? Going once?
Probably not a question, but a comment, or maybe it's a question. Do we send this out to the surrounding towns to see if they would want to take advantage of our services?
Yes, we do. We send it to over 20 different communities, and we've gotten kids that come from sometimes as far as the shore. A lot of times they'll come up here and stay with someone. Bristol residents, middle school, 9th and 10th grade, Bristol residents, classes are free. Out-of-town residents do pay a fee. Years ago, this was a revenue-making program for the district. Terryville, one of the teachers that was working in Bristol, stole our idea and opened a summer school program in Terryville, which used to feed about 120 students a year into our program. And so at this point, each year the program runs at a slight deficit, but because we built up a surplus over the years with Terryville, we have been going well, and we can go well for quite a few years at the
Well, maybe in their fiscal situation, maybe they'll want to come back to us, you know.
We average around 60, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, that come from other districts. And students that come to the middle school program from another district also have to pay.
All right, I think you're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Did somebody move it?
What?
Oh, did you call for a motion?
Did I call for motion before someone made the motion?
I don't think,
Did I not make a motion? Okay.
Okay.
I would
So
enter,
moved.
would someone, okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for the approval of the secondary summer school brochure. Now you can take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we move on to elementary.
This is the elementary enrichment program. Mr. Redmond is here to present that program.
Thank you. The elementary program is what the district offers to elementary age kids. It is a self-funded program, so it's paid for through the tuition of the attendees. We do offer it to other district students as well under the same tuition fee. It's completely self-funded. We offer a variety of different programs. It's been running for many years successfully. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
If not, I think you're ready to vote, so I would entertain a motion for approval of the elementary summer enrichment program.
So moved.
It's been moved. It's second.
Second.
Tina seconded. And properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You can all send those out now.
Thank you.
Who's doing this one? The Mike. Okay, our item 10.5 is Special Education Day at the Connecticut State Capitol, and I imagine Dr. Dieter is going to speak to that.
Good evening again. I had the good fortune on March 14th to participate in the Special Education Day at the State Capitol. The event was attended by educators, SEPTO representatives, families, students, and other people interested in special education and related services. The event was quite literally standing room only. They had to rotate us through and out because of the crowd that we had. We listened to personal experiences of students, parents, and educators as well. We also shared in a discussion about the common challenges that are faced by families and districts related specifically to services and funding. I'm very proud to represent the fine programs that we have here in Bristol and had an opportunity to talk briefly about our unified programs in particular and how they have expanded. I've also offered for Bristol to be the highlighted program for next year's event. So more to come on that, and I will certainly update the board accordingly. Questions?
I don't imagine this requires any votes.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 11, new business. I don't believe we have any new business. We can move right into information. And I'll start with my left, David.
Sure. All right, good evening, everyone. I'll go right into my liaison report, and I'll probably do in reverse order. In terms of information, I've been away from the board for a little while. In that time that I've been away, I've been focusing a little bit more on my family. There's been a lot in the media, and there's been a lot going on. And for the most part, I wanted to share with everybody this evening, wanted to hear it from me directly, that this evening will be my last evening as a board commissioner. I will be resigning at the end of this evening, and I wanted to hear it so no one heard it from anybody else. Been spending a lot of time with my family, and that's where I need to be right now. For those who don't know, I do have a pretty young and big family. Requires a lot, and fortunately in that time I realized a few different things in my time away here, and that's where I need to be right now. So I want to thank a lot of the administration, district leadership team, the teachers, the caring parents who come out to the board meetings, who do everything that they do, all the volunteers that are out there. It's not a difficult thing. It takes a lot of people to help make an education system go forward and be successful. I know we have our differences, but we all have the same common goal in mind. So with that said, that's all I have for a report this evening.
Well, on behalf of the board, I certainly want to thank you for your service over this time. We appreciate your input, your insight, especially from a business perspective. You brought a lot of insight to us, and we appreciate your service that you've dedicated to not only the Bristol school system, but the Bristol community as a whole.
Thank you.
Jen?
I don't have any information. Do you want me to hold my liaison?
Yeah, we'll go around a second time later. Karen?
All set.
Just to kind of add to Dr. Dieter's day at the Special Ed at Capitol Hill, just two things that had stuck in my mind were the themes of the day were self-advocating. There were a lot of students who had stood up and they gave these amazing, inspiring stories, and many of them mentioned that word. And being that it was on March 14th, I did find it interesting how that seems to be a relevant thread with our teenagers and our students at this point, where they were really talking about self-advocating and how that is the most important thing that they have learned throughout their special education and through their regular education and just through life. Also, I just wanted to highlight the unified arts. I mean, all of them mentioned unified arts and the difference that in unified theater and unified sports and what a difference that has made in their lives. So just sometimes you can't look at a budgetary aspect and really be able to measure what's going on in a district or what's going on in a school. When you hear stories like that, you have to think about that when funding certain programs. So I just wanted to add that.
Joe?
Nothing.
Mr. O'Brien? Mr. Kelly? Anything from the city council that we should know about?
Not at this point.
Not at this point.
Progress.
Okay. I did want to bring up one information item that I had. Person sitting to my left has been working without an assistant or a deputy for many months. I won't say how many months. And a school district our size with 8,000 students really needs a deputy or an assistant. And, you know, we as a board and as a community are indebted to her for all the hard work she's done. She's really had to juggle lots of balls and put them together, especially this being the budget season and, you know, crafting a budget for our city and for our schools. So we are really appreciative of all the hard work she's done. I can tell you from a personal fact that she texts me, emails me on Saturday, on Sunday evening. She checks in with me. She communicates with me a lot, and I think we are really owe a real debt of gratitude. And now that she is going to have a deputy or assistant in the next couple days.
Next Tuesday.
I hope, and I know she wants to start working on some higher level planning that she just has not been able to do. And so we're looking forward to that as we turn the next chapter in this situation. And for those of you who don't know, and I imagine you do, I mentioned it last month, but I thought I'd mention it again. And unfortunately, I cannot be there tomorrow night, but she's going to be receiving the Spirit of Caring Award from the United Way, and I just hope as many of you can go out and help honor her. She's been a person that not only has been dedicated to the schools in Bristol, but she's been a dedicated member of the Bristol community in a lot of different ways, maybe not seen by everyone, but she really has made her mark in Bristol, and we're very fortunate to have her on the board and in the community.
Thank you. Wait 1 minute.
Okay, all right.
I have to thank my team because I could not do this by myself. I have a fabulous team. We can't wait for Kate to join us and finally be a full team. But really, this is a group effort, and so thank you.
Now we're going to move to liaison reports, and I'm going to start, since I started over there last time, I'm going to start over this time. Pete, any liaison report? Mr. O'Brien? Mr. Grabowski? Ms. Taylor?
Of course.
Of course. Good.
Just if you get a chance in the next few nights to drive by Green Hills and see the beautiful memorial that was set out there, it'll be lit up for at least a few more days. And on that same note, if you happen to come across any glow sticks and you want to drop them off at Green Hills, we can keep the memorial going even longer. So that's all I wanted to mention.
That you do. Thank you. Karen?
No report.
Yeah. Jen?
Something very cool happened to one of the West Bristol instructors, Mr. Martino, who is the tech ed teacher, was fully funded for a laser engraver through Donors Choose. Mr. Martino's plan is to incorporate this into his 6th through 8th grade instructions to give students opportunities to use 21st century skills in real-world applications. West Bristol also celebrated Read Across America Day and Stories and Snacks to showcase student work to parents and their special guests. 6th grade students held their Egypt night, where students proudly displayed projects related to the customs and traditions of ancient Egypt. And West Bristol continues to build opportunities to reduce social isolation through their No One Eats Alone days.
Thank you. Dave?
No, I don't.
Okay. I did want to comment. Yesterday, Dr. Moreau and I both attended individually, not together, a invention convention in Mountain View School. And those of you who don't know, the 4th and 5th graders across the district came together, and their task was to solve a problem, a common problem they might have. And there was probably, 30 or so exhibits throughout the gym. And there was a couple that were very interesting. The one was the mother was blind, and apparently as she's going into her house, she's so focused on just trying to make sure she's where she is, she often leaves her keys either in the doorknob or someplace in the house. And so her daughter created a device that if she left the keys in the doorknob, it would sound an alarm. And if she left her keys elsewhere, there was a device that gave her a sonar signal so that she could find her keys. So that was one. Another fellow, young man, had a device with a snowblower where you put, I think it was salt or sand in it, and it was behind the snowblower apparatus, so after you snowblowed, you could salt and sand your sidewalk. One young lady had a device that, I guess she's a track runner, and she wears cleats off and her spikes on her shoes, and her mother didn't like her marking up the floor. So she created this device. It's like a flip-flop, which she put these bands over and put the flip-flops over the spiked running shoes. I'm not sure why you don't take your running shoes off, but I didn't ask that question. But I think my takeaway from this was how poised these young people were. Mr. Covino was talking about the soft skills, and some of these kids already had those soft skills. They looked you right in the eye, they shook your hand, and they could explain their project. I was really blown away thinking they were 4th and 5th graders and what they did. The ideas were very creative. Another idea was a young lady, must be germs, must be a big thing in her household, so she created this device that you could put over a doorknob and clean the doorknob from the germs. So it was very hands-on type of inventions. You could really tell that the learning sparked the kids' passion for learning or their ideas. So, I said to someone, I said, we should also have a Shark Tank to have the kids go up and we could buy their invention. But it was a great event. For sure.
Many of those students are going to the state competition up at Gamble Pavilion, and hopefully there's some scouts looking at some of those, because the snowblower one is just, that was amazing.
And I forgot, one other thing I'll mention is Dr. Moreau again and I, we spent a fair amount of time with each other. We both attended, as well as many others. I think Mr. Kelly was there actually, and I'm not sure if anybody else in the room was there, but we went to the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame has an annual awards banquet, and it honors those students who have an 88
average.
88 average.
Or above.
The word was trying to.
3 varsity letters to go along with that.
And then received 3 varsity letters. And so I think each school had 25, 30 students on each side, as well as St. Paul's. And Sports Hall of Fame also gave out, I think it was a $1,500 scholarship to a student from Eastern, a student from Central, and a student from St. Paul's. So we're very appreciative of that liaison, that collaboration we have with the Sports Hall of Fame. They also do a leadership for these student athletes at another point in time of the year. So this is the kind of thing that makes Bristol great. I think we saw tonight, those of you that sat through this whole meeting tonight, some of the great work that our students are doing. They're applying what we're teaching them in school, and it's manifesting in real applications. So like Dr. Moreau said, I think we're very proud of those students and those teachers and those administrators that nurtured and allowed that to happen. And I think that concludes my comments, and I think we're ready for adjournment. So Mr. O'Brien is going to make a motion to adjourn, and Joe is going to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.